This is a resource-based individual activity which describes what the student is doing. They then move into formulating their ideas and then move into a small group discussion. So all of these are defined teaching learning activities with particular properties which you can change. So if you think that collaborative reflection is not a combination of acquisition and discussion, but it's got some other things going on in it. For example, you might think it's got a larger amount of, sorry, I haven't got the right thing open here. You might think it's got a different amount of small group discussion associated with it, so you can change the properties in the palette down here. The point of having all of this defined is that we can see that this has quite a large amount of acquisition, certain amount of discussion, certain amount of inquiry, and the analysis tab allows us to see overall what does that session look like. Now here we can see that we've got a combination of one size fits all, the black. There's quite a lot of social learning going on and a certain amount of individualized learning. Now suppose I want to increase the amount of social learning there is. So this collaborative reflection is a small group discussion. So I might want to increase that, maybe reduce one of the other things. It depends on whether I'm worried about this design learning time has now gone up a bit, you can see on here. So I may not be worried about that, that might be sufficient, but this will now have increased the proportion of social learning which is going on here. Probably see it more easily if I do a more dramatic increase to the amount of time. So it allows me as a teacher to sort of play with my design ideas. I can test things out, and more importantly, when I've finished it, I can then make this available to other people for them to import, and in this way create new ideas, share them with other people, but more importantly perhaps adopt other people's ideas, build on those designs, and recreate someone else's design to fit what I'm doing. And in that way, we can enable teachers to share ideas, build on each other's work. Then maybe we'll get a better definition of what we know in the context of learning technologies.
Just one last thing is, yeah, that's the LDSC project team, and that was Dan and Lorelai who did the presentation. Of course, you can find that online if you want to review it again. Okay.
Okay. So as you saw, this was the result of a pretty big project, and it is successor of the pedagogical planner, so it gives lots of information of logistics information on how much time is dedicated to each design, to each activity. So Michael now with the OpenGLM.
So this is actually the result of several consecutive pretty large projects. So OpenGLM, it's called Open Graphical Learning Modeler. It's a visual learning design authoring interface, and with learning design I mean it was primarily intended as an authoring interface for IMS learning design for the specification. May I ask, raise hands, who of you know this specification, because it was also mentioned a couple of times before. So not very many, yeah? So generally it's a very lengthy and technical document that defines how you have to describe a teaching and learning process with all involved resources and the roles. So you can export it into a machine-readable format and use this definition, your unit of learning, in different learning management systems with different sets of users and so forth. And the specification is available, I think, since 2003, and there are a lot of tools. Also Catmos, for example, we have seen is capable of exporting it, and it has a very specific metaphor of looking at designing for learning. OpenGLM, probably I have to say it's based on Reload, the Reload learning design editor. So it's a Reload project. Probably I can say a few words. It's I think it started in 2004, right?
Long time ago.
Yeah. So it was a JISC funded project, and they built an authoring interface which was quite, I'd say, yeah, for the technical users. And then in another project in Prolix, also an EU project, they wanted to adopt the idea for designing for professional learning. So they built a more, if you want, intuitive visual metaphor on top of it. And in in another project in iCoper, it was extended with connection to a repository of open educational resources. It's available as open source, so at this link you can download it. It's available for all platforms, so I really just yeah, try it. It's a very nice tool. Yeah. So this is authoring, the main window, the authoring interface. You have a kind of a navigation information area at the left. You have a modeling canvas in the middle, and you have a palette and some teaching methods to reuse in the lower right pane. Yeah? So the main concepts that you are using in OpenGLM are activities. You define the activities that people, either teachers, learners, tutors, moderators, whatever roles you have, are going to execute during the actual learning. Okay? And all you're doing is you are connecting activities with each other, which means that they have a kind of a logical or temporal sequence. And there can be splits and joins and all sorts of complex twists. Yeah, but that is up to you. Yeah? It can be a simple linear sequence, it can have parallel activities, and so forth. So this is the activity view. For each activity you have to specify which roles are going to execute this activity. So is it the learners, is it the instructor, is it the external expert, or whoever. And of course for each activity you can specify what kind of resources, tools, and learning objects are provided as input and expected as output. So the label that we chose here were add-ons, tools, and materials. So add-on, sorry, didn't know I had more slides. So add-ons. Sometimes happens. Okay.
While you were on the plane, we replaced the slides.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. No. It's yeah. So add-ons are something that you use when you want participants, learners, to contribute something, to upload a file, to produce some text, to do a question answer, and similar things. And tools are technical services like conference service, a chat service, a forum announcement, or sending mails. And materials is what you would probably call a learning object. So each learning object is a resource that can stand for a simple link to a website, or an uploaded document, or just a piece of text. Okay, so you specify these here, and you can just drag and drop them onto the activities. And if you drag, for example, a tool, a forum onto an activity, then it means that this discussion forum is available during this activity. Okay, in the modeling area you have you can use some modeling tools. So the main concept is an activities. You see some of the activities here. The color of the activities is defined by the color of the roles who are assigned to these activities. So here the orange ones are the learners and the blue ones are the tutors. Yeah, and then you can make selection points where people can choose among several alternative activities, and a synchronization which waits until all previous activities are finished and then continue. Oh yeah.
Surprise is coming on.
You can see
that's
correct.
The reason is that these slides fulfill two purposes. Yeah, there should be a resource and a guide for using it in the afternoon session, and also they shouldn't be too cluttered for this presentation here. So yeah, you will have both. So you don't have to start from scratch every time. You can say, actually you can search also for that, but you can look up existing good practice or best practice, whatever you want to call it, patterns or teaching methods. Just drag them to the modeling pane and release them there, and the activities stored behind those patterns will be part of your modeling canvas. Yeah? And then you can do whatever you want with it. You can remove single activities, you can embed them into the flow of your own sequence, you can combine several patterns, yeah, whatever you like. And what's not shown here, the file menu and under some of these icons here, you can search for learning material in this open iCopa content space. It contains about 80,000 resources, not only learning objects, but also complete courses from several providers like OpenLearn is in it, but also MIT OpenCourseWare, and all these open repositories were integrated there. You can add them as learning materials to the activities. But you can also find these existing learning designs and existing teaching methods, existing patterns in those repositories there. Yeah. No, the key rules are rather for later. 1 minute left. So every learning design should have one start point and one end point, and every activity must have one role assigned, an incoming, or at least one incoming, at least one outcoming connection, and a description of the activity. But if you do not comply with this, you will receive a hint to fix this when you try to export it to an IMS learning design package. Yeah, the other things, if you double click on the activity icon, you will get an activity editor where you can supply activity descriptions. You can say which add-ons are used during this activity and which tools and materials that you have specified are available during this activity. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, at least right now you can see that there are many common points. Okay. And so the last presentation has to do with web collage, and especially I would like to show how web collage is included in a general life cycle that goes from designing to enacting. Okay. So, as we can imagine over here, first we design what Michael, for example, presented before. Then we instantiate in a certain class with concrete people and concrete contents. Then we put it in practice, we enact it, and then we evaluate it. Okay? Of course, this is a simple cycle that includes simply one setting, because if we take into account the community and all these things, then this cycle could be much more complex. So web collage, it is pattern based. You already heard the word pattern several times, or teaching methods, as Mike was mentioning before. That allows to design and instantiate, but this is only one part of the whole cycle. The result of this process is something that can be enacted, and the way that we really get the design out of it and be able to enact it is through what we call the glue, what glues things, elements. And in this case, we could glue VLEs like Moodle, or others that could be called VLEs like the Medial Wiki or LAMS. And also third-party tools, that is not only the tools that I have produced, but tools that have been produced by others, like Google Documents, for example. And then, of course, we have the evaluation, and as we all know, this is an inquiry cycle that goes on forever. Okay? I think that you already know the ideas that are behind these tools, and especially web collage. Simply remind you, design and instantiation. It is focusing more on collaborative learning, but this does not mean that it's only collaborative learning. It takes advantage of the patterns, these existing good practice or not, and it allows to bring all this together. So, for example, you can, I remember the pattern that I presented before, this pyramid, and in this case, if we have to define the learning activity, we select one of the patterns, in this case the pyramid pattern, and as you can see also we have the learning flow, like the swim lanes that Gronia presented before, when we can see what goes on from one phase to the other, and then we can define what are the activities by themselves. Okay? But not only activities, because we need documents, materials, resources, and we also need tools. So we need to define these elements. And one important aspect is that then we have to populate this design with real people. Okay? This is the difference between a generic design and a design that we put in practice in concrete context. And in this case, as we are going to see and use this afternoon, you can, just by clicking, you can create the groups, in this case saying that you might have 12 students participating in the activities. Okay? And instead of talking more, I will show again one video that you can also see in the YouTube. Web collage is accessed through the web, as the name itself shows. Okay, and so this is the set. So music over there is direction is by one of my students, okay? And who is a very good artist also. So designing with web collage, meaning getting the learning flow, And of course, you can listen also to me besides the music. And then edit the activities. As you can see over here, the title, the description, and also we could connect with the learning objectives like Gronya showed before. And then we go back and do it for each level. You could see that we had 3 levels, and then we could go on. And for example, in this case, define one tool. And we could use existing tools or simply search for a tool. Okay? This is one of the elements that says that we can assign tools to the different to the different activities. Okay? So we have the activities, we have the groups, we have the resources. Okay? And using also the VLEs. And then we have to instantiate. Then by clicking over here, we can get the instances of the people. And in this case, we have already the number of groups, but also we have to assign people to these groups. So normally we have a list of people, and we can get these people and assign them to groups. And finally, we have to implement it, that is, deploy it in one environment. Could be a wiki, could be a Moodle, could be LAMPS, or could be something. And this is done by groups. And the groups prepares, in this case, the package that is enacted in Moodle, okay? And this is the design that somebody had in mind at the beginning becomes a package in Moodle that can be run. And this is a real thing. I mean, if hopefully you can do this or something similar in this afternoon, okay? And in this case, we can do it in this environment, and over here we can see some things that cannot be done initially through only a Moodle instance. For example, all the settings of group structures that cannot be done easily, and the association with external tools. These are things that we can do besides the simple learning design, okay? And you can see that there are different views depending on the student view or the teacher view. Okay, so as you could see in this case, we do have in this last presentation I showed what could be the moments in which a learning design could be useful. Could be useful in terms of modeling, understanding the teaching and learning processes, to make them explicit, for example, using the compendium LD, then to provide information that can instantiate, put them in the real world context, and finally, either we have the design in our minds, for example, the teacher that we were saying that could use the virtual microscope tool, no? And have it in mind in order to design activities, or have the design and use them in one environment. In our case, we could do it in Moodle, or in LAMPS, or in a wiki. Okay? So these are the potential uses of the tools: modeling, understanding, visualizing, or allowing for enactment. Okay? So for a strange reason, we are on time. I was extremely pessimistic. 10 presentations in 45 minutes, and it's amazing. Okay.
Well, we can see a few other tools, right? I mean, Guys, you want to show recourse, perhaps?
I think people want lunch.
Yeah.
So maybe if there's just one or two quick comments or questions.
The point is that there are more tools and there are more patterns. Okay. we are just on time. I don't know if there is one question. If not, the next step is at 2 o'clock sharp, or sharp more or less, as I was saying before. Yes, sharp. We start again with a hands-on session. And in this case, I will assign to you, I mean, there are 6 6 papers or whatever, 6 items that correspond to 6 persons that can participate in one group, okay? So we can do it in any possible way, friends or first come, first serve or whatever, okay? So this is the most interesting thing, okay? So the idea of this morning session was not to learn everything about the tools, not learn everything about the possible patterns, but have an idea in order to use them in the afternoon and hopefully later, okay?